Good morning, everybody, or hi. I don't know when you're going to be watching this video. My goodness, the last Explore activity, 15-2 Explore activity number 3 for 8th grade CCPM2. So once again, we are on module 15 and section 2, last section of the textbook. We are done with this textbook. And it is a two-way relative frequency table. And statistics are my weakness. Every year I learn something and then I forget it over the summer and then I try to remember it as best as I can. That's all I ask that you do, is that you listen and you do your best, okay? So it says you can obtain relative frequencies from a two-way frequency table. So they have the definitions, 3 definitions. A joint relative frequency is found by dividing a frequency that is not in the total row or the total column by the grand total. So when you look at the frequency tables, the joint relative frequency is dividing the frequencies that is not in the total row. So it's not going to be here and it's not going to be on the total column. Total row is this one. Total column is this one. It's only going to be the ones in the middle, in the inside. Oh, that's a good way to describe it. Inside the table. It can't be on the outside, okay? It has to be in the inside. And you have to divide it by the grand total. The grand total is on the corner over here, the bottom, what is it? Bottom right corner. That's how you get the joint relative frequency. Then you have the marginal. Marginal means margins. Remember, the margins on the page. These are the margins. That means the sides. So the marginal relative frequency is found by dividing a total row or a total column by the grand total. So marginal, remember margins, we're dividing the 22 by the 50. This one over here was also 22 out of 50. So those are the marginal relative. And then it says a two-way relative frequency table displays both joint relative frequencies and marginal relative frequencies. So this is called a two-way relative frequency table because it has the joint relative frequencies right here in the middle and the marginal relative frequencies on the margins, on the outsides. Okay? So on this one, the first question, it says, what is the relationship between joint relative frequencies and marginal relative frequencies? So right here, looking at this one, what is the relationship between these joint relative frequencies and this marginal relative frequencies? Well, remember back in the days when we were doing the total, the Explore activity, we did the total right here. So 10 plus 9 plus 3 gave us that total. Well, now with the frequencies, you've got a decimal. So 2 tens plus 18 hundreds plus 9 hundreds gives you 44 hundreds. So if you add the joint relative frequencies, you get the marginal relative frequency. Okay, so that's the relationship. If you add the joint relative frequency, you get the marginal relative frequency for that row or column. Okay? Now it says you're going to create a marginal relative frequency table for Maria's data. And divide each number in the two-way frequency table from the previous Explore activity by the grand total. And then write the quotients as decimals. So some of it is done for you. So remember the previous activity. We had 10, 9, 3, and then 22 over here. Then we had 12, and these we're going to get them from the previous. The previous was 12, 6, and 10. So 6 and 10 is missing right here. So I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to put 6, and I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to put 10. So now I need to find all these other numbers. Well, these, remember, these are the joint inside, the middle ones. So 6, and it's always out of the grand total, 50. So 6 out of 50 right here. So I'm going to put 50. To get it as a decimal means out of 100. So 50, I'm going to multiply by 2. That's 100. 6 times 2 is 12. So right here as a decimal, it'll be 12 hundredths. And then here we got 10 out of, again, the grand total is 50. So I'm going to put in 50. And once again, 50 to get to 100, that's 2 times. So 2 times 10 is 20. So it's going to be 20 hundredths. Okay, but I can just put a 2 because that's 2 tens, which is the same thing as 2 hundredths. Right here, notice it says total. So that means I got to total up these. Okay, 12 plus 6, that's 18, plus 10, that's 28 right here. So I'm going to have 28. And it's, once again, this is the marginal. These were joint relative frequencies. These were marginals. So 20 out of the grand total, which is 50. And then double it. That's going to be 28. That's going to be what? 56. So 56 hundredths. I can check now to see if I did this correct. 24 hundredths plus 22, that's 36, plus another 20, 56, right there. Okay? Now this is already done for you. This is a marginal, so I do the column. So 9 plus 6 is 15. So right here, oops, I'm going to put, what was it, 15. And it's the grand total, out of the grand total, 50. So this is 50, oops. And then 15 times 2, that's 30. So that's 30 hundredths. 30 hundredths, I can just put the 3 tenths. It's the same thing. You always have to reduce it, simplified. So right here, we got 3 plus 10, that's 13. So 13 out of, again, the grand total is 50. Okay, I messed up right there. I just go back. Okay, undo. Okay, don't panic. Take a deep breath. So right here, 13 out of 50. I want to double it to get the hundreds. So that's 26 hundredths. 13 times 2 is 26 hundredths. Now notice right here, if I add 22 plus 15, that's 37 plus 3, that's 50 out of 50. And if I add 44 plus 56, that gives me 44 hundredths plus 56 hundredths, that gives me 1. Same thing over here. And then it says by checking. Again, you can check by adding the joint relative frequencies in a row or column to see if the sum equals that rows or columns marginal relative frequencies. So right here, they added the boy row. They added the boy row right here. So it's going to be 24. And then we got 12 hundredths, 24 hundredths. So I'm going to type in here 12 hundredths. And then this one was 2 tenths, which is 20 hundredths. And what does that add up to? Okay, so I was thinking that it was going to be 100. I'm like, it doesn't give me 100. No, it's supposed to give me 56 hundredths. So 24 plus 12, that's 36, plus another 20, that's 56 hundredths. And then I can do the cat column just to check. So cat, 18 plus 12. So 18 hundredths plus 12 hundredths. What does that give me? 18, 20, 30. And right here, see, it says 3 tenths, which is the same thing as 30 hundredths. Okay. And then the other column, this is the column. These are the rows. So column 9. I made a typo here. That should have been 9 because 3 times 2 is not. That should have been 6, not 9. Okay, yours is going to be fixed, but I found a mistake. But anyway, 6 and then 2 tens, and that gives me, I have 2 tens and 6 hundredths. That means 26 hundredths. So 26 hundredths, and notice that they added up right there. Okay, so now it says a joint relative number, reflect number 1. A joint relative frequency tells you what portion of the entire data set falls into the intersection of a column and a row. What is the joint relative frequency of students surveyed who are boys and prefer cats? So I look at the boys and those that prefer cats. Boys and the preferred cat is right here. So I can either put 1200s or 12%. Okay. So, the joint relative frequency of students, and I'm looking at the question right here to answer it. I don't start with what is, I start with the joint relative frequency, and continue. The joint relative frequency of students surveyed who are boys and prefer cats as pets is, now I'm answering, 1200s, which is equal to, and I can say, which is equal to 12%. You know what? I'm just going to leave it like that because I don't want to type on the next one. Okay, so number 3, a marginal relative frequency tells you what portion of the entire set represents just one column or one row. Okay, marginal, margins, yes. What is the marginal relative frequency of students surveyed who are boys? So when I look at the boys, right here, the margin for boys is 56. So once again, complete sentence, and the question was what is? So I start at the marginal relative frequency of students surveyed who are boys is 5600s or 56%. Thank you so much for listening, having the patience.